Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Pamela, and you are watching Pam Entertainment TV, where we review movies, television series, and incidents in pop culture to see how those incidents may affect our daily lives. Listen, lawsuit, 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 lawsuit. Yeah! I just completed my Jamie Foxx lawsuit video. Go check that out. You see it scrolling down across the screen. Please support this channel. Hit that like button. Also, if you like what you see, please subscribe. And once you subscribe, you'll be open to a plethora of videos that I have done on reviews on movies and television series and these pop culture chats. Baby, I went to bed, woke back up this morning, and my Lord, my Lord, my Lord. Lawsuits, lawsuits, lawsuits. So, what lawsuits are we talking about? What lawsuits are we talking about? Diddy got a whole nother lawsuit coming out. And then you got Aaron Hall attached to it. Also, I wanted to go over the article about the Reid lawsuit that came out. So, where are all these doggone lawsuits coming from? And what in the world is happening? Let me see if I can share my screen, share my screen, share my screen. Because we're going to talk about a lot of these things. So you see it right here. This is the first one we're going to talk about, but I wanted to go back down here. I looked up, what is the New York Adult Survivors Act? And basically, from what I've read from it, and you can Google it yourself, it basically says that last May, the governor signed in an act that anyone that has been a survivor of assault, that they had 1 year. So the act was enacted in May. It was 6 months after it was enacted when the year started. So that was in November. And so last November till this November, and I think it sunsets today, the 23rd or the 24th. I didn't get too far in it. I just did months and years. But basically what's happening is that folks have the opportunity at this point to, if they've been harmed, regardless of how long ago it was, they can sue their accuser in civil, and I do think it's in criminal court as well. But they had a year to put it up. So it is sunsetting on all that particular law. So you have a lot of people that are coming out with their lawsuits. And so that should answer the question, why now? Why are they coming out now? Because this is the opportunity that they have in New York. I do understand, and I believe that there is an opportunity like this in California, but do not quote me, but a lot of these lawsuits are coming out of New York. All right, so this article we're going to get into, y'all, is from the AP. Let's see. And it's about Reid. And I'm not seeing who wrote the article, but it's coming out of the Associated Press. Not having who wrote the article, but we're not going to worry too much about that. That's not too much of a big thing to worry about. All right, so let's get into this article. Again, trigger warning. If anyone finds any of this information to be triggering for them, it is going to be talking about SA, physical violence, and things like that. I will encourage you all to log off this video now. I'm giving you the opportunity to log off this video. All right. So before I start, let's just do this. This will give you an opportunity to log off. All right. It says here ex workers lawsuit alleges music mogul L.A. Reid sexually assaulted her in 2001. And if you don't know who Antonio Reid is, he is the other half of he is considered is Antonio Reid is L.A. Reid, who is one half of the Grammy nominated and Grammy winning duo of Babyface in L.A. You remember back in the late 90s, early 2000s, they ran a record label out of Atlanta, Georgia, called LaFace Records. This record company had acts like Pink. Um, I can't TLC. Uh, it was several acts that they had. I can't think of all of them at the thing at the time right now, but they had a lot of different acts that were going on. So a woman by the name of Drew Dixon filed a lawsuit Wednesday in a New York federal court. Dixon, who worked for L.A. Reid when he was chief executive of Arista Records, alleges that Reid sexually assaulted her twice in 2001 and later cut her budget and sidelined artists when she rebuffed his continuing advances. Okay. So I can see why it's in federal court because this sounds like a not only was she injured, but a lot of artists, up and coming artists, were injured in the act because they were signed up under her, and so therefore they were scorched. Interesting. Dixon left Arista in 2002 and contends that her meteoric trajectory in the music business was cut short by Reid's harassment. This litigation is not only about the horrific physical assault that Ms. Dixon had to endure, but it's also about the irreplaceable damage done to the rare and blossoming career of an extraordinary talent, the lawsuit said. Dixon is seeking unspecified damages. All right. And the Associated Press does not typically name people who say they were sexually assaulted unless they come forward publicly. All right. Dixon sued under New York State's Adult Survivors Act passed last year, which alleges victims of sexual abuse a 1 year window to sue even if the original statute of limitations has passed. The deadline is November 24th. So I believe that is today. All right. So this is L.A. Reid. This is the lawsuit that he is falling up under. And again, we talked about the New York Adult Survivors Act that allows these women and these men to be able to bring these lawsuits forward. So, what are y'all thinking about L.A. Reid and his lawsuit? She is claiming that she worked for him. He sexually assaulted her. And when she rebuffed his efforts or decided that that's not what she wanted, he tanked her career. She did move on to a new record label, but she felt like he dampened the waters for her. So we will see how this lawsuit comes about. Baby, they getting them in before this deadline. They getting them in before this deadline. What do you all think about this? Because one of the things that's been interesting me, I think that a lot of us have spoke about in the undercurrents, but now we're starting to see with some of these lawsuits that they're coming out. Some things are blossoming out of the concrete, so to speak. That we're seeing a lot of this go on in the music business because we've seen a lot of people who we have seen that they have the talent galore, but they never move past a certain wall, and a lot of them come back later and they were saying, well, the music business wasn't for me. And a lot of people go back into religious confounds because it's like it's not for me. And everyone talks about the Illuminati, everyone talks about the casting couches, everyone talks about all these little different things that have been going on. And it has been ingrained in our pop culture as we understand that it's seedy, but a lot of us are indifferent to it and we're like, eh, until we start hearing and seeing. I think this Cassie's lawsuit opened the door for us to see the minutia, the nuances of all the stuff that can go on and how someone's career can be tanked and be sidelined through through proclivities that other people have. Uh, but let's move on because as we're talking about Mr. Sean Puffy Combs, baby, a third accuser has come out. There was a video circulating earlier this week with Sean Puffy Combs with his hands in his head, and he was sitting on it looks like the banks of his house on Star Island, and he was sitting there with another woman, and she was showing him the her phone, and he just put his hands on his head, and he just looked like bewildered at that point. Uh, because probably he knew that there was a couple of more lawsuits coming out. So here, let's talk about this one. And this one is interesting because not only is Sean Combs uh, implicated in this, you also have Aaron Hall, who was the lead singer of Guy, who was a popular group back in the late 80s, early 90s. I believe that's their time frame. That he was implicated as well. So let's read what this has to say. Now, this article is from the Rolling Stones. It was written by Nancy Dillon, and we will go in this. The headline is Third Accuser Sues Sean Combs for Sexual Assault. Jane Doe plaintiff alleges Sean Combs and singer-songwriter Aaron Hall took turns R-ing her and a friend after an event at Uptown Records in the early 1990s. Child, child. Back in the 90s, one of the things that I would say, and this is not an excuse for anything, there was so much going on back in the 90s. There was so much going on. There was so much going on. And particularly for black folks, because this was like a new renaissance, because you had a lot of black folks being shown on television at that time with what? The Cosby Show, Living Single, um, It's a Different World, uh, Martin and them. It was just a whole big time. It was an influx musically. Black music, R&B music at the time was pushing more into mainstream. With Janet Jackson, Michael Jackson, uh, Mariah Carey, because they were R&B artists. New Edition, all of those artists, they were getting some levels because I think that's when New Edition started splitting into all their different genres, BBD and all this other stuff. You started getting rap artists that were getting into the pop music world with Run DMC started that out back in the 80s. But you've got a lot of 90s, late 90s artists with Biggie and Tupac and uh, Nas and Jay Z, and then they filtered into the 2000s. You know what I'm saying? Because it was like the late 90s going into the 2000s. So let's look and see what's going on in this lawsuit. There's a lot of stuff going on back then, and people were very interested of keeping certain images tight. It was very rare that you saw certain things spill out. You heard whiffs and whispers about it, but people at that time were very tight about keeping some of the stuff that's going on real tight to the vest. That's why you see a lot of this stuff spilling out as it is, because culturally we have changed, going from the 90s into the 2000s into the 2010s, and now that we're in the 2020s, we're with a generation of young people who are like, this stuff ain't cool. This stuff ain't cool on no level. And so they are big about exposing things that do not serve them. And so this is where we're getting a lot of this stuff. And, we also have a lot of people who have looked up to a lot of these artists. But I could tell you one thing that my mother told me a long time ago: never get to know your faves. Never get to know your faves, because you'll be disappointed every time. The best thing that you can do is listen to, enjoy their art and enjoy their works and keep it moving. But once you see the ins and outs of your faves, you have to make a decision of whether or not that person is going to continue to be your fave, or are you just going to just be like, okay, this is their artwork, I'm gonna have to move on? So that's just one piece of thing. Enjoy their artwork if you can, but if their personal values don't align with what your values are and your morals are, even though that they have good artwork, you can make the decision to not listen to it, or you can just make a decision, not to consciously go and purchase and things. That's what I'm talking about. Putting your money behind those things. You can consciously decide not to do that, and you just listen to them when you listen to them. If they come on the radio, fine, you didn't pay for that. But to make a conscious effort not to put your money behind them, uh, once they do not align with your morals and values, that's okay. That is definitely okay. And we at Pam Entertainment TV, we back you on that because we want you to be healthy and feel good about the stuff that you're doing and listening to, and not feel like you've got to make excuses or anything for why you listen to it or why you don't listen to it. So let's move on. Third accuser sues Sean Combs for sexual assault. It says here Sean Diddy Combs has been hit with a third lawsuit alleging sexual assault under the Adult Survivors Act that expired after Thanksgiving. The new complaint from an anonymous accuser alleges that Combs and singer songwriter Aaron Hall took turns raping the plaintiff and her friends in 1991, and that Diddy turned violent during a rage days later. In the filing obtained by Rolling Stone, Jane Doe alleges that her friend met Diddy and Hall at an event hosted by MCA Records. I'm not even sure if MCA Records is still in existing or they merged into something else. But this is what I am starting to see. And this is what I am starting to understand. These music companies don't want to be associated with stuff like this, right? You saw with Harvey Weinstein how everybody and their grandmama pulled away from him when they realized that they were associated with who they were associated with. I'm willing to bet you, and I'm just going to extrapolate this way. There's going to be a point in time where, because these things are going to come out and they're going to have damaging effect, because you're going to find that they're going to be record company, not only executives but employees who were ordered by those executives to execute certain things that may skirt the law, that may hit that fine line of being legal. Once these companies start realizing that these executives have employees doing certain things or trying to cover up certain things, there should be, and I'm hope there should be a big paradigm shift in the way that the music business is going to run from nowadays. I'm hoping, and I'm feeling like I'm seeing that. This Cassie's lawsuit is the initial test fire for that, but we're going to see other lawsuits that are going to come out if they met the deadline. Because if they didn't make the deadline, we're not going to see it anymore in the state of New York. But other lawsuits are going to start coming out because, again, once one person sees the courage of one person, the other person is going to kind of start coming out. Let's continue. In the filing obtained by Rolling Stone, Jane Doe alleges that she and her friend met Diddy and Hall at an event hosted by MCA, the distributor of Uptown Records, at the company's offices in New York. Combs and Hall were very flirtatious and handsy with Jane Doe and her friend, offering them dank drinks through the night, the filing reveals. As the event was winding down, Combs and Hall allegedly invited the women back to Hall's apartment for an after party. While at Hall's apartment, Jane Doe was offered more drinks and was coerced into having sex with Combs, the filing claims. After Combs finished doing his business, Jane Doe laid in bed, shocked and traumatized. As she was in the process of getting dressed, Hall barged into the room, pinned her down, and forced Jane to have sex with him. The complaint says Jane quickly got dressed and fled from Hall's residence after the alleged rape. It alleges she later spoke to her friend and learned that the other woman had been forced to have sex with Combs and Hall in another room. Upon information and belief, when Combs finished with Jane Doe, he and Hall switched, the paperwork states. A couple of days after the alleged assault, Combs allegedly visited the home where Jane Doe and her friends were staying and turned violent. He was irate and began assaulting and choking Jane Doe to the point she passed out, the complaint alleges. Combs was searching for Jane Doe's friend because he was worried that she would tell the girl he was with at the time that he and Hall had done what he and Hall had done to them. Alongside Hall and Combs, the lawsuit names MCA Music Entertainment and Geffen Records as defendants. The new filing marks the third lawsuit filed against Combs in the days leading up to the expiration date of the 1 Year Adult Survivors Act. The act provided a look back window for sex assault allegation that has passed the statutes of limitations. R&B singer Cassie filed a blockbuster complaint against Combs on November 16 for alleging rape, sex trafficking, and repeated beatings. Diddy reached a private settlement with Cassie 1 day later. A second accuser filed a lawsuit earlier on Thursday that alleged Combs drugged and sexually assaulted her when she was a Syracuse University college student in 1991. I did not report on that one, but we're mentioning it here. She alleges Combs filmed the incident. Oh, yes, I did. Filmed the incident and showed the video to others in an act described as revenge porn. They says here's a rep from P Diddy's camp said that it's all a shakedown, all a shakedown. What are y'all thinking? Because they're coming out the woodwork. Folks are coming out the woodwork, particularly against Diddy. Aaron Hall is implicated. Now, one thing about Aaron Hall, I remember, and y'all go look it up for yourselves. He did a Vlad, wasn't it Vlad? Again, folks go on Vlad and start self snitching. It just is what it is. You know, they go on. Vlad provides a platform for them for artists to self snitch on themselves. But he went on Vlad's show and talked about, and I'm paraphrasing, and I hope I'm getting it right. But if not, I apologize. But he went on that show, and if I'm not mistaken, let me see. I'm trying to find it. Let me see real quick. Hmm. Yeah, he on that show he mentioned that P Diddy and other artists used to, because he says self-proclaimed that he's well endowed. He said that that other artists like to watch him perform sexual acts with women because of the fact that he was well endowed. And I I need black men to put this down in the comments because this is something that has always perplexed me and I do not understand. Y'all put this down in the comments. Why do y'all like to talk about y'all sexual exploits? Is it to puff yourself up with the other guys that you're with? What is really going on? Why is there no decorum on that? I am curious. I'm curious as to, and listen, and I'm real curious from all different age groups. So if you're gonna leave that down in the comments for me, guys, just give me the 10 year. So if you're in your 20s, say you're in my 20s or my 30s, my 40s or 50s, 60s, however old you are watching this video, but put that down there why that is. And as you've gotten older, is that real important or not? Because I usually see this with younger guys, but I'm starting to see these old heads doing the same thing too. So let me know. It's just a real curiosity for me. I am really curious to see why that is. All right, people. We do this every week, and as stuff comes out, I'm gonna bring it out. This is my celebrity legal news edition of my pop culture chat. I have all my celebrity legal news in its own playlist. If you're interested in watching that, again, support the channel. Please like, please leave me a comment down below, and subscribe. I really do appreciate it. And to all my subscribers, I really do appreciate you. Please look forward. I am going to do episodes 2 and 3 of Black Cake. That's coming. And like I said, if this celebrity news starts coming out and popping with these lawsuits, I may just jump on and do a live. Also, Jonathan Majors is heading to court next week. So look forward to that. I'm going to possibly do a live to kind of go over what I think is going to be next in that lawsuit. I mean, excuse me, in that court hearing, what I think is going to happen. All right, people. We do this every week. I keep telling y'all we do this every week. And as always, people, bye bye.